This episode is brought to you by Henry Ford and his incredible legendary quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right."
Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, my people.
Hello, my people. ¿Cómo están, damas y caballeros? Welcome to the Stephan Dyer Podcast, where we welcome people with remarkable stories for amazingly vulnerable conversations. Today, I have Justin Bruzzese, one of my favorite people, the unbreakable, the unmistakable, the highly capable, the invincible Justin Bruzzese. Justin owns 100% of Canadian Metal Buildings and 60% of Armor Steel. Armor Steel was his father's business up until a couple years ago. The other 40% is owned by his unbelievable, amazing brother John. Justin purchased Canadian Metal Buildings, which was dormant at the time, from his father in 2015. Justin is also a member of TEC Peer Group, and this is where the story gets interesting. At the time, CMB revenue was approximately $2 million. In 3 short years, Justin has grown this revenue to an approximately 8-fold increase by the end of this fiscal year in 2023. February 2023. More importantly, he has changed his industry, created a culture of purpose-driven organization, and put the competition on notice. There is a new way to design, create, and deliver metal buildings, and all of that while giving back to his community, and in particular, the youth of his community. Justin is a conscientious and purpose-driven leader and has implemented and continues to implement sustainability and environmental-based solutions and processes. The core purpose that Justin and his leadership have defined and embrace in everything they do is building better buildings, building better lives. Now, this is all great. And it is, and it sounds impressive, but the real reason why I invited Justin is because in the summer of last year, Justin hired Huang and myself to go deliver a keynote on the power of failure through our training and development company, the Rethink Group, and also an improv for team building workshop for his entire company. This was a big group in Hamilton. Was it Hamilton?
Yeah, Stony Creek, just outside of Hamilton.
Okay, yeah, it was a beautiful night. It was a beautiful day. It was summer. It was incredible. And then before and after, we were having a conversation, and Justin was telling us the story of how this started. It was just 4 guys and him at the beginning, not a lot of structure. And I'm like, how did this become that? And then I started realizing that it was the mindset. It was the consistency. It was overcoming a lot of difficulties. And obviously, as you know, a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are immigrants, are newcomers. And lots of the things that Justin and the core values and the challenges that he's overcome, I think we could all learn from that. And then we had the pleasure, again, last December to do a corporate comedy show for their Christmas party. And the company that we met in the summer, it was only like 6 short months, but you could see it was growing even more. And a lot of things had evolved. The vision is clear, and you just we work with a lot of companies, and you just know sometimes that when the vision is clear and the core values are clear, great things are going to happen. So I'm super happy that you accepted this invitation. And now, welcome, Justin. How are you, my friend?
Thank you. I'm fantastic, and thank you for having me.
Man,
my pleasure.
Look, one of the things that you mentioned that day is that the first day we met you was that you were born in Canada, but you went through some adversity. Obviously, continue to overcome a lot of difficulties with your company, and you continue to contribute to your community. But as a child with ADHD, you were often ridiculed and did not fit into the education system, which is a big thing that I love to talk about, because sometimes I find that education is meant to breed compliance and not creativity. And I want to know what your experience was like and how that affected who you thought you were, what your potential, what you thought your potential was, and maybe your aspirations as a teenager when everybody's like, oh, I'm going to go to university, I'm going to be a businessman. How did this whole thing impact you when you were growing up with ADHD?
Yeah, I mean, it played a huge part in my childhood and into my adulthood as well. I forget who said it, but the school system builds great employees, but not great entrepreneurs.
That's true.
And you know that now that I've time to kind of look back at my childhood, it's very true. And I struggled in school with the sense of not feeling smart, not fitting in. I mean, I was a popular kid. I wasn't.
Did you do sports, skateboarding?
Yeah, I was
You were
big.
just funny. What was your thing?
I was big into skateboarding from a young age. Played a lot of sports, a lot of hockey, soccer. Very active, obviously. Attention span wasn't very long, but yeah, it was the academics, right? A hard time focusing, which I still do. I just kind of learned to channel it a bit. And it just didn't feel smart, right? I felt like I was disturbing other kids, which I probably was. But I got put into special education, right? I mean, they failed me in grade 4.
Wow.
They moved me back up in grade 6, which did a lot of harm as well because I missed a lot of stuff. But spent most of my time in special education with, kids and children with mental and physical disabilities, which I took a real liking to as well. I found myself always wanting to help as well.
Yeah.
Right? So I liked that part of it, but I didn't learn a whole lot.
I know that from the story, there was one particular event where there was a contest to help redesign the gym, and that kind of helped you get not just hope as to what was possible, but shed some light into your passions. Yeah. It
was actually to redesign the exterior. They were looking to put basketball nets up.
At school.
We were at an older school in Hamilton, and I think we had Foursquare, they called it. You hit a ball around with your hand, and there was nothing, no soccer field, no basketball nets. And so they came to the children of the school and asked, they're holding a contest for someone to lay out some activities for outside. Yeah. And I got out the pens and paper and rulers and markers and started pacing things off and measuring things and laid out where I thought we should have basketball nets and things to do. And they actually, that was in grade 7.
Wow.
So I don't even know what age you are there,
Probably like
12,
13?
Yeah, something like that, 12, 13. And they actually took it and implemented it. They
Wow.
put up, not to the T, but they took the ideas and they
Canadian
put up,
Middle Buildings would have done a better job.
Yeah. But they put up the basketball nets and things to do, and it was great. And I certainly, at that time kind of realized I wanted to build things. I wanted to plan things. I had a knack of visualizing things in my head and building them, and was able to solve problems very well in my head, very quickly and efficiently. But I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor or a lawyer from a young age.
And what type of things did you visualize? Was it like construction or creativity or paintings?
Yeah, I'm not an artsy type, so I'm not able to draw. I'm not musically inclined. I can't play an instrument. It was mostly building things. Built a lot of skateboard parks too when I was younger. Yeah. I actually spent some time out in Edmonton at the Fantasyland Hotel. Spent about 7 months building skate park.
Wow.
In the
How old were you then?
In the West Edmonton Mall. 17.
What?
Yeah.
That's
with
insane.
With
You
another
hadn't
gentleman.
even graduated high school. by then? 17,
Yep.
I guess.
Yeah, I just graduated. Yeah, I was
Wow.
out of high school, just out of high school, and yeah.
That's
So,
incredible.
Yeah, just able to visualize it and see how things come together, how to build things, and then in my, adulthood and in running a business and having employees, and machinery now.
Yeah.
Just being able to identify issues before they even happen.
Yeah,
right?
I like that.
Has been
Well, to your point, I think knowing what you're good at is great because people who have accomplished extraordinary things do so by doubling down on their strengths and not necessarily mitigating their weaknesses. But at the same time, that sounds incredible. Okay, cool. You know what you do, what you're good at, and then you double down. It sounds overly simplistic. The hard part is like having the self-awareness of what you're good at.
Yeah.
So that self-awareness journey can be painful, highly rewarding, and fulfilling at the same time. Once you are going through high school, and clearly there's been some difficulties because you get put in other classes, and probably you're getting like the message from teachers is like you're a troublemaker, blah blah blah. Plus your confidence is low because you got put down a grade when you're in grade 4. Yeah. And then if you got advanced in grade 6, maybe you lost a lot of material, which were the basis for other things that were going to happen in grade 7, 8, 9.
Yep.
Now, as people are starting to approach grade 11 and 12, to me it was incredibly stressful because I think to the majority of people it is because you're like, bro, I'm 17. I have no idea what I want to do for the rest of my life. What were you feeling? What were you thinking? Because some people are saying, I'm going to go to university. Some people say, I want to be a doctor. Some people like talk like they know exactly what the rest, like the next 60 years is going to be. And to me, that was like, fuck, am I like in a disadvantage here because I don't know what I want to do for the next 60 years? It's kind of, it's stressful at times. What were you feeling? And did you have any idea what you wanted to do post high school?
I was lucky enough to work and have an entrepreneurial father. So my father owned a steel company, Armor Steel. Started 1962.
Started from the bottom.
So, I worked for him in the summers. I learned a lot from him. He's kind of my driving force of what really pushes me to do what I do.
What's his name?
John.
Shout out to John.
John
Bruzzese.
Yeah. So, he's taught me a lot of, and that's where that quote come from, right? I mean, Henry Ford, but my father used to always say to me,
oh yeah,
whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So every time I would go to him, with a problem or anything, his answer was always, you're right. It's like, hey, Dad, I can't do this. I'm not going to be this, and I can't go to college. And you're right. He's like, well, what do you mean you're right? You're right. And
wow.
And it wasn't till like in my 20s that it really started to sink in. But he's taught me a lot of, he's given you these little nudges, right? Nuggets without you even realize it from a young age. And when you actually spend some time and think back what he meant by them and what he was doing, it's like, holy shit, okay.
He was right.
He was right, But yeah, I was able to fall back on that, and I always like building stuff.
You started working with him after high school.
Yeah, during since we were kids, we'd go in there and summers.
Brothers?
Yeah, we'd go in and paint steel and just spend time at the shop while he was working, and so we're always around it. And we loved it, right? My brothers are very hands-on as well.
Yeah, I met him. They're great.
So I pursued some skateboarding and snowboarding. Thought
nice.
maybe I could make a career out of that, but
how did that go?
Yeah, it hurt. Physically.
Lots of falling down.
Yeah. I was out west and I got hurt really bad. I was living in Invermere, BC, and took a pretty good spill that kind of, ended that career. But never. It was fun, but I knew it wasn't gonna be extremely successful.
I also wanted. I was very big in soccer, and this is like a running joke in Latin America where they're like, "Oh, I was gonna be pro, but I tore my knee. I tore my ligaments,
my ACL."
And I did tear my ACL when I was here at U of T. But to your point, sometimes we have the passion for the sports, but at the same time, you're like, "Well, what's my shelf life for this?" And maybe there's other things in life, which is not just sports. So. What were you thinking? Okay, I'm going to get some experience with my dad.
Yep.
Obviously, you were good at this. It felt good. But you were like, maybe there's more to this? What was your early 20s mindset like?
Yeah, I'm almost happy that happened because that's what forced me home and started...
Like the accident in snowboarding.
Yeah. So I came back home and healed up and started working for my dad. You know, kind of made me realize that... Hey, there's no future in this. I mean, I'm not at that level where I can make an amazing career. I loved it, and I still do. My whole family does it.
Do you snowboard with your kids?
Yeah.
Oh,
my wife, my kids. Yeah. So we all go riding, but you know, it made me realize I need to start maybe settling down and spending more time in the business with my father. And throughout that time, you know, I started to take a real liking to the business side of it as well, like the real inner workings of the company.
What year did you start when you came back from out west?
Yeah, I was, I don't know, early mid-20s, something like that, working for my dad. And then...
And what year, like 2010?
Oh, man.
Maybe 2005?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, when were you born? I was 1987.
84.
84, so
Yeah.
You must... So 20s, 2004.
Yeah.
2005, okay, nice.
I'm not good at math, as you can tell. But
so you started to like the entrepreneurial side of things.
I always did.
Yeah.
I think I always had a real... I always wanted to be independent.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I played a lot of team sports, but with skateboarding and snowboarding, being independent, I always liked just relying on me. Right?
And also you had that chip on your shoulder, you know, like a lot of people thought I couldn't be my boss or be the boss. And that could be bad, but it could be a force, you know, a fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. And that always came into effect for sure that I didn't want to let my dad down.
Yeah.
Was a big one. You know, going through school, giving them trouble. You know, I wasn't a bad kid, but it was... you know, I didn't fit the mold, right? As you said. And, you know, it can be hard on a parent too, right? You know, what am I going to do with this kid? And, you know, is he going to be under my roof forever? Or, you know, is he ever going to take off and be successful? But, you know, I didn't want to fail. You know, I'm very competitive as well. So I didn't want to let him down. And it drove me. Right, that whole thing drove me, and you know, I wanted to take over the business. Right.
When you told me that story last summer about at the beginning, it was me and 4 guys driving around. Is this similar to this time, where now you're starting to see what can I do by myself, or what projects I can take on by myself? Is this around this time?
Yeah. So after, you know, a few years working. I was working there on and off, but actually spending time, you know, in the business, full time, you know, maybe 4 or 5 years. It was stunting, like the growth. I didn't see a massive future there in armor steel, and I think it was the type of business. We were in more residential steel at that time, and you know, I was... Can
you explain, just for the people who have no idea of construction like me and other listeners, if you had to explain it to a 10-year-old, what does armor steel do, and what does Canadian Metal Buildings do?
So when armor steel originated, it was supplying steel beams for your house.
Okay,
so
amazing.
So posts and beams that hold up your first and second floor of your house. And it evolved into more commercial industrial fabricating work, so building the skeletons and the shells of the buildings over the years.
And Canadian Metal Buildings...
So Canadian Metal Buildings started as a service provider, as an erector or installer installing the steel buildings, and then I've evolved it to manufacturing and installing now Canadian Metal Buildings. So now we leverage Armor Steel as a manufacturing arm of Canadian Metal Buildings. So we've incorporated and amalgamated the companies.
So for example, for people to visualize it, the place where we did the comedy show in December, well, there was like a side building where we did the show, but the big brewery where it was like the same place. You did one of the big buildings for the brewery where they had the big beer things.
Yeah, the Bench Brewery. So it was
Bench Brewery by Niagara.
It was in
Stone. No, where is it?
No, it's considered Niagara on the Lake.
Yeah, Niagara
right?
near there. Beautiful
or
building.
Beamsville. Yeah. So they do micro beers and small batch beers. Yeah,
that place was beautiful.
Real nice building.
And the building was incredible because I entered that building because I didn't know where the event was. So I entered that building before going to the real place, and I was like, wow. And then I found out. I was like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So you feel like at the beginning when you were there in your 20s, the growth potential didn't seem that promising. So you started to take another path to see where it would take you.
Yeah, so that's when I branched out on my own and started Canadian Metal Buildings in, I think it was 2012, right? Something like that. No, sorry, 2015. And,
it was you and 4 people that helped you on and off.
Yeah, so I went out on my own and I started to take a liking to what we call pre-engineered metal building systems. So I started seeing them around, and they're the type of structures you see like hockey arenas and soccer facilities and warehousing and manufacturing. And, I figured I could build those. I could install them. So I wanted to challenge myself, and I just started learning a lot more about them, and then decided to take a leap of faith and I bought a pickup truck and got 4 buddies together, and we started installing other manufacturers' buildings. So there's, I think, 2 other manufacturers in Canada that manufacture these pre-engineered metal building systems. So we started dealing with general contractors and putting up the buildings for them, and then we grew the installation business from 4 guys to 20-something guys, putting up other manufacturers' buildings.
Wow. How big is Canadian Metal Buildings now? How many people?
So now if you combine the two, because we kind of amalgamated everything, we're around 70 with 12 to 15 more that we're looking to hire right away.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my favorite part of this story. And the reason why I'm going to ask this is because in my experience, it was just me and Juan, my business partner, who when we quit the bank, and it was just like, okay, we're doing everything. Yeah. Because we don't have the money to pay anybody else. In Spanish, we call it a todero. Todo is everything. So so you do everything.
Yep.
But you're not good at everything. But you do everything because you have the time, and you have to do it because you have to eat.
Yep.
And as you start to grow, so now we had like 3 people who they have their own jobs but would help us with projects. Armando, Isaac, Virginia, and now we have Roberto, who does like the social media and the workshops and a lot of the things for selling and the CRM. And it's been a really cool experience because, well, now we have the money to pay somebody. But the delegating is very interesting because you don't write anything at the beginning. But you can't delegate without having the best way to delegate so that you don't have to go back and forth a billion times because they can't read your mind and they haven't been through these 60 months of you doing one thing. So you have to document and delegate. And it's been interesting, challenging, and fulfilling to do this. I can't imagine what it's like to do it for 70 people. Obviously, there's positions that got created that you didn't even did before because it's exploded into something even bigger. But what have you learned from managing 4 people at the beginning to the next stage, which was probably 20 people, to the next stage, which was maybe 40, and now 70? What has that experience been like, and what have you learned along the way?
A lot. I would say the biggest factor to the success is understanding that you can't be all things to everybody.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people that are smarter than you.
Oh, that's so good.
And you know, that vulnerability piece of, you know, convincing yourself that you don't know everything. You want to as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to know everything. You want to be the best at everything. But when you can actually explain to yourself and you know, the voices in your head and say, you're not the best at everything.
And there's a limit to growth, to scaling, if you're going to do it.
Yeah, you hit
yourself.
the ceiling. And we hit the ceiling. But being aware of that, and knowing that the way to break through is by leveraging other resources and people, that's allowed me to really soar.
There's a book that I think I mentioned that day. Maybe you already read it, but it's called The E-Myth. I've mentioned this a billion times on the podcast. People are probably tired of hearing this, but it's relevant. So the E-Myth is called the entrepreneurial myth.
Yeah.
And the entrepreneurial myth, according to the book by Robert E. Gerber, I think, he says that, I know it's Gerber, but I don't remember if it's Robert or whatever. So he says that the entrepreneurial myth is that you think that, so there's three skills. There's three skills in a business: the technical skill, the managerial skill, and the entrepreneurial skill. So I'll give you the example, and then I'll tell you the myth. So you have a bakery. Justin has a bakery. Actually, you bake the best pies, okay? And everybody's like, Justin, this is delicious. You should create a bakery. But the entrepreneurial myth is that people think that running a bakery is the same as doing the technical work of baking pies. But it's not. That's why so many businesses fail. You should probably, depending on the case, stick to baking pies, because the skill set that is required to run a bakery successfully, the managerial skill set, is very different than the technical skill set that is required to bake the pies. And then the other skill set is the entrepreneurial, which is related to the future, to ideas.
Yep.
So a lot of people end up, oh, everybody says I'm good at baking pies. I should open a bakery. Then you get, like, you drowned in administrative work, and then you hate your life because what Justin loved, is to bake pies, not to run the bakery. So now the bakery fails, and you just lost a lot of money and years, and then you're like, why did I do this? I was so happy baking the pies. And then the other thing that it says is that you're better at one of the three skills. You're not incredible at the three skills. So it takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of vulnerability and honesty to be like, this is probably what I'm good at, and I should delegate the others. And then the other thing is, in the delegating, you can't effectively delegate without documenting, because then the other person's going to do it under their interpretation. You're going to get pissed. Why didn't you do it like that? Well, I didn't have any direction. Well, give me something in writing. Well, no, it's just like that. And then you're just going to have a billion back and forth. You're probably going to end up firing that person. And that person was set for failure because you never guided them. So what did you learn about yourself? Did you have any similarities with the bakery analogy?
Oh, man. Yeah, I can go back to when I took the leap with 4 guys and a pickup truck. What we left out of the story was my wife, who did all the work.
Wow.
You know, she was working at the time.
What's your wife's name?
Laura.
Shout out to Laura.
Yeah, so, you know, she's working at the time for Bell Canada. Crazy shift from 2 to 11 or something. Just had a kid. She's doing the books, trying to take care of a kid, do payroll, HR, all these things. And that was, like you said, what am I doing? You know, this is not what I thought entrepreneurism's like, right? and you start to resent it a bit. My big breakthrough, which is, I mean, that E-Myth analogy ties in, is a perfect segue for Tech Canada, so TEC, which is the executive committee. So, being conscious that you need help, I was great at building buildings.
Yeah.
Right? I was amazing. Like you said, I could build these things in my head. I could see how things go together. I was awesome.
Baking the pies.
But the administrative work, the HR, the hiring, the delegating, the documenting, the
relationships.
It wasn't me.
Marketing, branding.
Right. So, being aware of that and taking what you love and what you don't love and then being able to delegate it. So I joined the tech committee, executive committee for advice and help, right? It's a peer advisory group, other entrepreneurs.
Oh, wow.
Right. Who are in a similar position or maybe going or been through what you've been through and can help. And that was an absolute game changer. I mean, that was the support system that I needed. And it also introduced me to EOS, which is an entrepreneurial operating system. So essentially, it's a blueprint to run your business.
Wow.
So
in many ways, it's like going back to school a little bit for what actually is useful.
Right. And it's it's like a mini MBA.
Yeah.
Going to these classes. But EOS, again, implementing that, you talk about the delegating, and they have what they call an integrator and a visionary. And the visionary is typically the founder or the president of the company who's the 1,000 big ideas.
Yes.
They're going,
like the entrepreneur,
100 miles an hour.
Example.
Right.
But then you need the manager.
But then you need that manager, which they call that integrator, who is the documenter, the person that actually takes the vision and brings it down to the straight and narrow with clear direction to make sure everyone's rowing in the same direction. I've been filling that role recently, which has been tough because it's not my skill set. I'm the true visionary.
Yeah.
So we actually just put out the job description for the COO integrator. So we're hiring for that role now.
Chief Operations Officer?
or integrator. So,
wow.
So if you're looking for a job, we're hiring.
I am very bad at integrating, but I may know some people who know some people who know some people.
But knowing that, right, that's not my strong suit. I need that partner to keep me grounded, to take those ideas, give you pushback, to and add some context to it, and not just me going 100 miles an hour in 18 different directions.
Yeah, that's so important to us during the pandemic. We were like, okay, cool. We have all these dreams and we've accomplished like great things, just the two of us. But clearly, we're not gonna go far. So when the pandemic happened, there were some like government grants or like loans, and they would just like put them in your bank account. And I think we got like the first time like $20,000 loan, but like $10,000 you didn't have to pay back or something. I don't remember.
Forgivable, right?
Yeah, it was like SIR, but for small businesses.
Yep.
And then we were like, we started working with a project manager who's a good friend of ours. His name is Z, and he started to help us optimize some parts of the business. But we always wanted like coaching as to how can we teach our public speaking through comedy workshop, like a public speaking workshop, but for businesses.
Yeah.
And so on the corporate side, and how can we give our speeches and maybe our TEDx talk that we did in Malaysia, but how can we give it like on a big stage and a keynote and charge big money? So through working with Z, he was very clear, like, guys, this is not me, but I can help you with other stuff. You need a business coach. And then in knowing that, we got to Cody, who's our business coach now. We started working with him like 2 years ago, and we've like since then we probably like quadrupled our revenues. We now have other people doing stuff. It's optimized every single thing, our website, our corporate stuff. That's how we got to you.
Yeah.
And worked with big companies, traveled to Texas and other places of the world, and now we got the festival. We're taking it to new levels, but in the knowing that you need something, big growth can happen. And also, in that, we've learned how people do it in other businesses, because he's worked with other businesses. Yeah. He's also a keynote speaker and a consultant. So it was like the perfect match, and we learned so much from it. But if you're just like, oh no, I'm the best at this and I'm never going to let go because if I founded it, I got to do everything, then you're like, bro, you peak too quick and you're never going to go anywhere. So I find that what you're doing is incredible. And the other thing that I forgot to mention is that when I heard from Juan, like just like vaguely, because I didn't know the details of the event where we met you, it was like, oh, they want the power of failure, our keynote. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, what's the company? What do they do? They're like, oh, they're a company near Hamilton, in their construction. And I'm like, what? A construction company wants to hear the power of failure? Because obviously, like everybody, there's stereotypes, there's biases, and I'm like, I don't see a group of, because you just like you imagine like in Latin America construction guys, and like typically maybe like blue collar, you don't think that they would enjoy or request something that deals with vulnerability. And I'm like, okay, wait, there is something very special here, because this isn't your typical RBC or your typical company trying to, like, this is a construction company out of Hamilton or Burlington. I don't remember where the event was, and they're seeking growth through content and learning from other people's experiences. So immediately I wanted to meet you and learn about what your vision. And then I realized you have great core values as to what the company is. Obviously, they've been evolving since 4 Guys and You to now 70 or 85 and You. How have you identified what Justin is all about, because the company is just a reflection of you and everybody who's around you? How did you identify your core values and translate them into the company?
Yeah, it goes back to the childhood, right? Of even if you don't fit the mold, you're not what people define you as.
Absolutely.
Right? So giving the youth in what we do is really that saying, right? You can do anything you want to do, but it's whether you can or you can't. You're right. It starts with yourself, right? So we've set our values on, being passionate, teamwork, but we want to give that youth that struggled, or struggles with ADHD or autism or any disability or depression.
The building better lives.
Right, which exactly, that they can be anything they want to be. And it's, that's where building better buildings, building better lives comes from. Is our goal was to be we changed it, but it was the Google of the metal building industry. And it was that place that everyone aspires to work at, right? Where
I love it.
It's open. I mean, there's expectations, obviously, but it's a fun place. It's rewarding. You can be open, vulnerable. It's different. Like when you walk into our company and even the manufacturing plants to the office, it's got a different vibe, and it has that techie, Silicon Valley type feel. I mean, I go to meetings in hoodies and jeans.
Oh, I love it.
Right? Like I don't own a suit. I'm not your typical
Absolutely.
businessman, right? So it's
authenticity.
Yeah, it's be yourself. Right? I mean, I'm not going to put 100 policies together and say, you need to dress this way and act this way. It's be yourself. But we have goals, and like you said, it's clear, it's documented. But we feel it's a great place to grow and start a career.
The other thing that made me fall in love even more is that there is, again, I don't know a lot about construction. In fact, I don't even think I know other construction companies. But just the fact that when I walked in there the first time and then even the second time, like December even more, you have people from the Dominican Republic, a lot of people from India,
Yep.
a lot of people from other countries. So it's not like all white people from Hamilton.
Yeah.
I was so happy to see like immigrants like me
Yep.
working there. Because the easiest thing for you is just to hire a bunch of your buddies and see where it takes you, then go after work, get drunk, and see if this goes anywhere, you know? But you, and then you're bringing in like 15 other people from India.
Yep.
And they do your estimation. Some of them are in accounting, engineering, I believe.
And installations.
Installations. So there is it's not just all talk. You actually walk the walk in terms of like, we need better talent. We need good talent. We need good fit for the company.
Yep.
And you're investing in immigrants,
Yeah.
which I love.
It comes back to the values.
Yeah.
Right? And
But not a lot of people do that. It's special.
it takes discipline because you want to be able to just hire anybody.
Yeah.
Especially your buddies.
Yeah.
Right? But if they don't fit your values and the culture, you're doing yourself and them a disservice, right? You're setting them up for failure from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's going to be difficult with that type of person. And we found nothing against Canadians, but we found other cultures and from other countries fit our values
Yeah.
a lot better than not stereotyping, but I'm just saying they seem to fit our values of our company, and that's what's attracted us to them and them to us, and it's been extremely successful.
Yeah, obviously, it's not like a white or non-white
No.
debate here, but the vibe was so positive at the Christmas party, and we weren't even part of the company. We felt part of the company.
We fed you.
and you fed us. We had a great time, and everybody was so loud and positive, and even the people. I find that having great core values is so good because I don't know where I heard this. I don't know. It was maybe a podcast or whatever, but having great core my friend Michelle Falcon, who was on the podcast too. He founded this company called Brasa Peruvian, which is a restaurant.
Oh yeah.
Of Peruvian flavored bowls, and he specializes in company culture and creating great customer experiences. And he said that the best part about having great core values is that it's so easy to hire and fire.
Yeah.
Because not even fire, because some people will notice even before you fire them that they just don't fit, and it's not good or bad, it's not a fit, and they could have an incredible fit at another company, and you just let like them staying and you not saying anything is a disservice in many ways. And I feel like the clearer these are, then everybody's like rowing towards the same place, you know?
Yeah.
And those who don't, it's gonna be hard, and it's probably gonna be better that they're not there so that they can then be at a better fit and be more successful in those places.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. And we've seen it. They even if they do get in the organization, they weed themselves out
Yeah.
very quickly. And it's clear just by the values alone, as long as you're living them.
Yeah.
And that's the key too, which you see some companies will have them on the wall as you walk in or in the office. But if they're not visible in everything you do,
Yeah.
then I mean, you might
It's
as well
useless.
you might as well take them off the wall, right? And
Absolutely.
put a better picture up there. But you got to live them. But yeah, like you said, not only is it easier to hire or even fire, but reward as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's an absolute game changer for sure, as long as you're living them.
One of the most rewarding things of my life, and especially entrepreneurial career, was hiring a copywriter. Again, delegating.
Yep.
Because sometimes you're so close to the wall where you think like, oh, I could write these core values, but you're so close that you can't see the whole picture. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So we hired this lady on Upwork.com, and we gave her like 3 pages worth of like what we thought we were all about, and examples, and our beliefs, and what we thought was our mission and our vision. And when she brought it back to us, it was like, I can't tell you how happy I was for somebody to put into words what we were all about. So I have them right here. I'm going to read them. And you have to live them. So the mission: to entertain, teach, and inspire through the power of comedy. Vision: establish a fun, diverse culture where everyone is welcome, weird is cool, and people confidently embrace their authentic selves. And here are the core values, core beliefs, and this is my favorite part. We believe everyone can be an amazing speaker and performer. Confidence, charisma, and comedy live in every person. You just have to unlock it. 2, there are actually 5. We believe stepping out of your comfort zone is a lot less scary and more fun when it involves laughter. Comedy is the tool, but personal growth is the outcome. 3, we believe in diversity, inclusion, and learning from everyone's unique story. 4, we believe relationships are more valuable than money. And 5, we believe in creating a safe, comfortable community where weird is cool and authenticity wins. So once you're like in a tough position, or like you're like, fuck, should I do this or should I do that? Or you're in a conflict with a client or with like somebody in the school or so. You go back to these.
And it's your foundation.
Like, it's your foundation. It's the guiding light.
Yep.
And then after you make the decision, you can sleep in peace because you've been authentic and true to your values.
Yep. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Where now that you've created this incredible. It's like some people say, like, let's pretend you have a snowball, like a big snowball, like a beach. Like size like of a beach ball, and it's all snow, and you're just like chipping at it a little bit. Month after month, you're chipping at it. After 7 years, after 20 years, you have a nice sculpture of everything you've chipped at, and you continue to chip at it. What is the most successful part of your day to day now? I mean, what do you enjoy the most about your day to day, and where do you want to take it? Because sometimes we don't look back to see all we've accomplished, and then you forget to enjoy because you have all this admin stuff to take care. What do you enjoy the most about your day to day, and where do you want to take CMB?
Oh, I mean, those are 2 very, very good questions. I would say what I enjoy the most about not only day to day but everything I do is seeing the growth in the team.
Yeah.
Right? Seeing them succeed and do better, personally and professionally. That's the building better lives. For not only our employees but our customers and our community, the people that we touch. That's the passion. That's where it is. That's what gets me going every day. Is that growth part of it. And then where do I see CMB going?
Yeah, where would you like to go?
Oh man, we're going to the top.
All the way to the top. One of the things that I loved the most of that day was correct me if I'm wrong, but you had one Indian lady who used to work with you, and then she brought her husband to work with you as well.
Yeah.
What were the names?
So Usha,
yeah, she was at the party.
So she's our head estimating engineer.
Yes.
And her husband now works for us as one of our head project managers. Is Ratish.
Yeah, imagine.
And yeah.
Imagine what biggest testimonial could you have that then your wife telling you come work with us, because if it sucks, you're like, I'm out and don't even get close to this place because I'm looking to get out.
Yeah.
And them telling, like Usha telling her husband to like, hey, come work here. Now it's like the you're part of the family now. It's almost like you want to build something bigger here, and hey, let me bring in the most important person of my life.
Yeah.
Imagine if this was miserable, you would be doing the worst to this person. Like, I wouldn't tell my wife to come work with me if it sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that, to me, that's
for
a
sure.
big testimony.
Yeah, I agree. It's even better when they bring their kids. Right? They got the little guys running around.
CMB University.
Yeah. You know, they bring the little guy, Ved, is amazing. Their son. He's hilarious. You know, he's like part of the family as well. They bring him into the office and he's running around playing. We use virtual reality
Nice.
with our building system. So, you know, he's playing on that. And yeah, it's like a family, right? For sure. So
and your
doing something
kids,
right.
they
And my
probably
kids
feel
and-
like
and-
CMB is part of their day-to-day
and
their
our
lives.
team's kids, right? Like everyone, the employees' kids. Like that's what we're building, right? Is something for them to
The other
take
thing,
and run with.
The other thing that on that topic is, as you, so first when you first are in the grind of like, this is like do or die. Like failure is not an option.
Yeah.
Like mal
Yeah.
pensando CMB, rethink. It's like we're gonna be successful or we're gonna be successful.
Yeah.
But once you start to achieve some level of success, like remember your wife was doing this, that as you were raising your eldest. But once you start to achieve some level of success, and obviously your salary or what you can actually pay yourself, because at the beginning it's like I'll pay myself whatever is available but now you can actually have some stability. How have you navigated this? Okay, now I think I have time to be a dad, and I also have I'm a husband, and now that I have a steadier ship in the water, what about having fun? You know,
Yeah.
like all these things are tough because I actually have to schedule my fun at times, because then I just forget that, like, I could be in this place, which is my office, for a year without leaving almost. Like, because I'm so passionate about what I do and I have all these ideas. But then I'm like, well, no, I want to be with my son and I want to be a good husband and I want to exercise because that makes me a better entrepreneur and father and son. So how have you navigated from one area of your life, which is like, oh, this has got to be successful and I have a chip on my shoulder and I want to do the best for me and for my dad and my family, and like, okay, now it's kind of successful, now I can do other things, because work-life balance, I don't like that word that much, but like it's more like integration, you know. There's no such thing as like perfect balance, so I do 1 hour here, 1 hour there. How have you integrated all the areas of your life and be the boss?
Yeah, I mean everyone has different work-life balance or wants and needs, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to clump that together. But for me is, man, it's gratitude, right?
Yeah.
And it's a morning routine now that just being aware and conscious, you know, of the little things and not forgetting when you started and the grind. But we've always been family oriented. My wife, my family's close, my wife's family's close. And that's just been the biggest thing for us is the family. And we try and, at the beginning, yeah, it was tough, right? You're working 60, 70 hours a week more. Your wife's working all night and you know, especially my oldest, you know, maybe didn't get as much attention when he was younger as he should have. And now it's nice because I'm able to make up for it.
Yeah.
Right, with the time, because I have the flexibility now.
Yeah.
Because I have the team in place, and
That's very rewarding.
it is that's probably one of the biggest rewards for sure. It's certainly not financial. I mean, yeah, it's nice. Obviously, financial stability removes a lot of stresses, but the biggest reward is the time.
Yeah, to be able to buy back your time.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning, like, your work is your life. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean that in entrepreneurship versus corporate life, 9 to 5 life, where it's like, when I was at the bank at 5 o'clock, I was on vacation because I left the physical premises. But it was like when I was starting my own company, at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. or whatever disposable time I had, I had to use it, otherwise I wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford, not also because I was passionate about it, but I couldn't afford to have vacation because if I was on vacation, I wasn't earning.
Yeah.
But if I was on vacation at the bank, of course I'm getting that paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right.
So to me, setting those boundaries, it's been and not feeling guilty when I was on vacation as an entrepreneur was also a big it took adjusting for me.
Yeah. And I made a promise to myself and the family that, I'm going to try everything in my power to leave work at work.
Yeah.
Right. Even as an entrepreneur, it's easier working for someone else. Right. Like you said, once you're done at 5, you're done at 5. You can leave work at work. It's a lot different as an entrepreneur, but I think I've done a pretty good job, even from day one, of not bringing those stresses home.
Yeah.
Which has made for a very healthy relationship as well with the family and my wife, right?
But I imagine there were some tough as you have to make payroll sometimes at the beginning.
Oh man, I've borrowed. Yeah, I can't even want to tell you stories. Yeah, it's not all cut out to what people think, right? I mean, I borrowed my father-in-law's operating line to make payroll. Like, tell me how that feels. Having to go to your in-laws to say, hey, can I borrow $30,000 off your operating line? I promise I'll pay you back.
Well, good thing you did.
For payroll and bills.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to do that. Right?
You have to be very confident that it's gonna work.
Gonna work out.
But even then, nobody is giving you the assurance that it's going to.
No. And I mean, I like to think that my ADHD has played a part in like the risk analysis side of entrepreneurship, where my wife always asks me too, is like, man, doesn't that scare you? To do this, or buy that equipment, or take this leap, and it's like, no, because failure is not an option, right? Like you said. But I don't know if I've blocked that out of my brain.
Ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yeah. But yeah, it can bite you though. You got right. I mean, you can't be blind to it, but
I don't know if this was your experience, but at the beginning, sometimes I went from making 6 figures to making no figures when I quit the bank and my business partner. But I don't know if this kind of happened to you, but we were just so excited. I had some savings, but they were going like down super fast. But I was so excited of everything, and like traveling and doing shows and learning from other people and teaching and seeing where this was gonna go, that the money side of it didn't matter that much. Obviously, there were some worries because there were some tough times, and I remember going to the bank like 3 months after I quit, to the same bank that I used to work at. Not the branch. Like, no, I'm not knocking on people who work on branches, but I had a really good position, and I asked for like a $300,000 mortgage line, like to buy a house, and they were like, no. They were like, no, buy. And I was like, what? like I used to write credits for like $100 million, and to me, it's not that 300,000 is like a loony, but for the credits that I was writing, it was like nothing. I know $300,000 is a good chunk of money, but it was like the least you can. I don't think that money even buys you like a locker nowadays in downtown Toronto. And they were like, no. And I was like, fuck. I felt like that was one of my lowest points, because I was like, well, first of all, I could have applied for this mortgage like 4 months ago when I was still at the bank. Yeah. And then the other thing was like, I am nobody on paper right now. And if I want to get married, own a home, aspire to a good life for my kids in the future, I have to be someone on paper because this is just how the world works, or Canada works. And I remember like that because it was my wife's idea. I was like kind of like risk averse to. Plus, my savings were going down, and I was like, well, if I'm gonna lose my savings anyways because they're just going down, I might as well invest it in like a fixed asset. So my wife convinced me, and I went, and I kind of knew these people at the branch because I visited them, and some of them were like, oh, you work here, because they could see it in the system, and they could see I was a senior manager, and I had coffee with them sometimes to give them like advice on how to network or get into good positions, and then this person was just like, yeah, no, you don't qualify. And I was like, what? Yeah. I couldn't, because it hurt my ego, you know? Yeah. Like the suit and tie and making good money living downtown. People say like, oh, it doesn't change you, but it does change you. And the banker kind of became my identity, you know, like partying and traveling and downtown and all these things. And then suddenly I was nobody. Although I was happy and excited to be on this journey, I still wanted to achieve other things that were not related to comedy.
Yeah.
And when that happened, I was like, fuck. And then I was like, maybe after like 48 hours, I was like, okay, it's on. Okay. Okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
And then also I didn't know that the big 4 or 5 banks are like the most conservative, but there's other ways to get a home with second like quality, more like not the biggest banks, you know. There's other banks that so I ended up buying an apartment, but that really hit me, and those specific moments are the ones that now I look back when I'm having shitty days or whatever, and I'm like, we've come a long way, you know. And the other thing that I realized is, like, especially with regards to my son, who is 3 now, it's like most of the amazing feelings that I get have nothing to do with money.
No.
And money will just make you a bigger of whatever you already were. If you're a great person, it's probably going to make you an even better person. If you were an idiot, it's going to make you a bigger idiot. So you can't rely on the money for happiness.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. I mean, hence why I've taken the same salary for pretty much since I started.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been lucky enough in other ways with our houses. So I mean, same thing happened to me. We built our houses.
Yeah, you built your house.
Yeah, but I mean, we had to get a construction mortgage, and thankfully, you know, having my parents and my in-laws smart enough to say, hey, well, you know, if you're self-employed, you know, you're gonna have a hard time getting a mortgage. So we had to wait for my wife, because she was thinking about quitting her job.
Yeah.
As CMB started to grow.
And you have to build those historic financial statements.
Applied while she was still employed.
Yeah.
And even at that, I was self-employed, so they gave us a hard time. If we were both self-employed, then forget it. We still had to get co-signers.
Yeah.
To get the money. So it was tough at the beginning, but we built our first home, and you know, we sold that and then built another one, sold that. Now we're in our third. So thankfully the other things have allowed us to live the lifestyle that we live. But yeah, you look back, the money is not what makes me happy. It's not what drives us to do what we do. You just give back more, right? I mean, it's you need money, don't get me wrong, especially with the cost of things these days.
And you got 3 kids.
And 3 kids and sports and this. But, you know, I was just reading it the other day. I think someone put a post on LinkedIn, and it was, I forget who it was, but, you know, it said a raise will make you happy 1 day out of the year. But loving what you do, or, you know, makes you happy 365 days out of the year, right? So it's a double-edged sword, right? I mean, it can be a hot topic when talking to people about, you know, loving what you do and money. But yeah, deep down inside, money's not what makes me, at least me, truly happy, for sure.
Absolutely. Some people ask me, oh, should I quit my job then and do what I love? And I'm like, well, I wouldn't advise you to take my path and go from to good money to no money. But the other thing is getting to know yourself. And because I had lived in so many countries and moved around and there was a lot of uncertainty. I came to Canada by myself when I was 15 to a boarding school. And then I went to university at 18, obviously to U of T, to here in Toronto by myself. But a lot of those changes, I managed them better because I had moved around before and had to change homes many times and countries and schools many times. And so when people say, should I quit my job? I'm like, well, it depends. I love uncertainty.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and you gotta respect it. They love the paycheck every 2 weeks, and they love a 9 to 5, and that's amazing. But it's just not me.
With it. Right? Yeah. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
You need people like that.
You need people like that
for sure.
And and on the other hand, you could do what you love first as a hobby, and see where that takes you. You don't have to jump and see if the pool has water.
Oh yeah.
Every time, you know, and we did. A lot of people think that we just woke up one day and we just quit our jobs, but I started writing comedy or things that I thought were funny on Twitter since like 2010. Then I started doing Toastmasters in 2012, public speaking. Then I started doing. 2013, I started doing sketch comedy videos on Vine and Instagram.
Yeah.
2014, I started doing stand-up. And only until 2017, where there was a lot of things happening, it was taking more of my time and energy. And it was kind of like, okay, am I going to double down on the bank thing? Or do I want to bet on myself on this thing? So I took a chance, but it was a calculated one. I saved a lot of money. I gave myself a year. I left all the doors open at the bank. Moved to a smaller place, stopped partying, stopped eating out, stopped Ubering, stopped traveling, and my wife, girlfriend at the time, now wife, we were both on board. So, and I was absolutely okay with all the consequences. Did they feel okay when I got rejected at the bank? Of course not.
Yeah.
But I knew there were consequences if I wanted to double down on this.
Yeah, and that's I mean, I know a lot of people, a lot of our employees, they love what they do. And they're not entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing, like you just said, you had to sacrifice a lot of stuff. Right? A lot of people these days don't want to sacrifice anything. Right? They don't. They don't want to not go on vacations, and they don't want to have to, take the TTC and like it's right? So
or bike or
walk or whatever, right? They want everything, and they feel that they should be able to get everything, and so it's
and the other thing
right?
important on that is like, don't compare your chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 63.
Yeah,
because a lot of immigrants that come to our, I have a networking thing called Not Working to Networking where I host meetups for Latinos and by industry. So like yesterday was Latinos in HR. On Mondays, it's online, and on Thursdays, it's in person. And we've helped like over 85 people get really good jobs and hundreds of connections and everything. Like 1,500 people have come to the meetups in the past 2 years.
Incredible.
We're going to start it's going to be a non-for-profit. We're going to incorporate it soon. I don't know if you say incorporate a non-for-profit, because I guess you wouldn't incorporate a corporation. But anyways, and a lot of them are like, oh, that's so cool that you're a comedian and you have this school. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm in my chapter 23 of Canada. I'm going to be 20 years. I came here when I was 15. And I worked at Scotiabank for 7 years. So it sounds all sexy to be the owner of your time and all this. But go work at Tim Hortons. Go work at Starbucks. Go work at a bank or an engineering firm or whatever you do, wherever you go, whatever you studied. And or maybe go work at a snowboarding hill, even if you were a doctor back home and maybe you can't be a doctor here, because that's going to help you immerse you to the cultures, and you're going to look back on those years because you're never going to do that again.
Yeah.
Because you only get to do better as you stay more years in Canada. So I'm like, it's okay if you gotta do the Tim Hortons right now because you just came to Canada. It's okay if you gotta work in an office that you hate for the first 2 years because you're gonna get a lot of experience from that. But you can't have all the cake and eat it on your first day in Canada. You know,
Yeah.
Everyone has their own chapters, and in knowing that, I think it helps because comparison is a thief of joy in many ways.
Yeah, it certainly helps when you don't care what people think of you either,
Yeah.
right? And that's my mentality, right? Is like I've never really I don't judge others, and I don't care what people think about me, right? I mean, it's not going to change. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick.
No, I know.
But it's not. I don't care.
And I think
right?
I think you don't care. I don't care because I ate so much shit at the beginning
man.
that nobody can tell me anything about going on a stage and being ignored and being humiliated, nobody laughing or getting rejected. Obviously, these are first world problems. I know I haven't been in a civil war in the middle of like whatever, but when it comes to this,
Yeah.
and the entrepreneurial journey and my journey in Canada, I don't care. Same as you, because I've ate so much shit that
Yeah.
I couldn't care.
What's it going to change?
Yeah.
Right? The way they look at you? Like,
Yeah.
Who are they?
And most of the
But-
people that I don't know a single hater that is doing better than us.
Yeah.
And if they aren't, then they're like, I want to be compassionate because they must be in like a very dark mental place, you know?
Yeah, my mindset's huge, right? Especially with entrepreneurship and life in general.
How do you work on that? Do you have a strong morning routine and
Every
gratitude?
day, yeah, absolutely. So, I huge fan of Robin Sharma.
Yeah.
So, you
The
know,
monk who sold his
man.
Ferrari.
Yeah, 5 a.m. club, right? A lot of reading. I haven't read a book in my life until my 20s, and now it's like, man, on my way here, I picked up 3, right?
Yeah.
So it's a strong morning routine. It's up at 4:45 every day, and it's
Every day.
It's every day, and it's reading.
So you
it's
4:45.
4:45,
are
4:50.
sleeping.
Yep.
Your wife is sleeping,
Yep.
and what happens at 4:45? You go to pee, and then what happens?
Sometimes not even. I go out and lucky enough now, but I bought myself a hot tub.
Yes.
So I'll go out into the hot tub and I'll read and I'll do some meditation and
Even in the winter?
and do gratitude.
Especially in the
especially in the winter, right? Because it's being uncomfortable as well, right? No one wants to go at 5 a.m, minus 30-degree weather with a swimsuit on, cold, but it's that shock, right, of your system, which I love it too. But
it's a hot tub, or do you do a cold plunge too?
No, it's just a hot tub.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still cold.
But I
yeah.
do the shower, right, and then turn the last 30 seconds to cold and do that stuff as well. But reading, it's reading, it's gratitude, and it's mindfulness meditations every morning, right?
Until 6 a.m.
Yeah,
until
6:30. Right, depends how good the book is too. Keep going. Yeah, and then I get up and my wife is amazing. So she's getting the kids ready for school. Gets them off to school sometimes, but I'll come in and give them the hugs and kisses, and dad's off to work, right? So it just sets your day up for success, right? Like
Absolutely.
you can't help but start your day happy.
Yeah.
And
that's your me time.
Yeah, in a clear mindset, and it's like, man, nothing can. There's nothing worse than starting the day off in the wrong foot, right?
And in a
pissed off
hurry.
and miserable, and in a hurry, and it's life's too short for that, right?
I love the 5 a.m. mornings because nobody's emailing you.
It's quiet.
It's quiet, and the best thoughts come when you're not in a hurry, in those moments of pause, and you can also think about yesterday, you can plan today, you can breathe, you can be grateful.
Yep.
I do my best work from 5 to 7 a.m. And the other thing is, like, when you're a boss like you, inevitably everybody else's wants and needs and priorities will come on your desk.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then you can't have your me time or that moment. And if you don't carve out the time, 15 years go by and you're
Oh.
like, what did I do with my life?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super important to take that time. And I mean, if mornings aren't for you, do it at night.
Yeah.
Right? But carve out that time for sure. It just puts you in a great state, right? And my father was a big believer in the mindset as well, and he's, lucky enough kind of forecasted that onto us, and my brothers and sister, and it's true. It starts with yourself, right? And in your mind, and you see people at work, and you want to help them, and they're down and in a bad state.
Yeah.
And you want to snap them out of it. And I get things happen, bad things happen, but when you think back, it's they're gonna go through the rest of that day, the rest of that week, that month, that year, in that bad state, in a shitty mindset and depressed and down. The outcome's not going to change.
Yeah.
So, whatever happened, you got in a car accident, you banged up your car, whatever it is, it's not going to undo that. So, it's easier said than done, but why go through the rest of that day pissed off and miserable, which affects everything else, all your decision making, your energy, the vibe, that you're not productive, you're not happy because of this event that happened however long you carry it for. So, I always try to catch people in those states that I see, especially employees, when I walk around, and if I notice them that their shoulders are down, and, I try to snap them out of that state. Say something funny, do something, crack a joke.
It's contagious too.
Yeah. Because you're not going to fix the event that happened. So don't let it ruin your future.
Yeah, the
right?
other thing is you don't notice, well, I know now you know, but that people are kind of a reflection of you because you're the boss. So if you're super serious, nobody's going to want to joke around you. But if you're happy, you're authentic, then people can be themselves. They can bring themselves to work. Yeah, take your job seriously, but don't take yourselves too seriously. So creating that environment is key.
Yeah, for sure. And that's your culture.
Absolutely.
Right? Starts with you. Starts with the owner or whoever, right?
And now being a dad, I guess this is my second last question. I know that day you mentioned kind of that you see some similarities between one of your kid and yourself. The good thing is that you've done, I'm not saying that your parents didn't do the work, but you've done a lot of work, and maybe because it's 2023, they have more resources than you had. How has this journey been of being a dad and kind of seeing yourself in one of your kids?
It's harder than being an entrepreneur, that's for sure. Yeah, it's eye-opening.
Yeah.
Right? For sure. My oldest is spitting image of me, which is scary. And it's given me some trouble. Not trouble, but difficulties, let's call it, in the beginning, because we are so similar.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to deal with yourself, right? And your traits, and you're not used to it. But now that I'm noticing it, and I think about it, how did my parents deal with me, or everything's gonna be all right. I can you got to step back out of the moment and just, again, the mindfulness, the meditation
see yourself
stuff.
in the third person, like you're observing yourself.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's like seeing yourself as a kid, but just being mindful of it, and there are a lot more resources now to deal with it. But thinking about what you would want at that age, what would help you, and just being mindful and not getting too heated too quick with them. It's just stepping back and going, okay, it's you, man. Like, how you gonna deal with you?
I love it.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's been great.
We've come to the last question, which everybody gets, and it's called the champagne question.
Uh-oh.
And it goes like this: if we were to meet a year from now, 2024, with a bottle of champagne, what are we celebrating in Justin's life?
Oh, wow. What are we celebrating in my life?
2024.
2024. we are celebrating. Oh man,
it gets people talking about what they love or something passionate.
Yeah, let me.
It could be sports related, family related, CMB related, book related. I don't know, selling this house and building another one related.
Yeah, no, I'm done. I would say what I'm striving for and what we're pushing for is CMB University.
Oh, I love it. What does that mean?
Which is a training program to really live out the building better lives part of our purpose, our mission. So it's training new employees, or youth in our community on not just manufacturing and what we do and our processes, but mindset.
Yeah.
Right. And the power of that. So like a support system, opening up opportunities for jobs as well in the manufacturing industry and construction industry, but a mentorship, right? Somewhere where they can go to help the youth and underprivileged children, again, people struggling with, learning disabilities, ADHD like myself, where we can help them overcome it, grow, be that support system for them and give them the resources for sure.
That could be so good.
Yeah.
It's going to be so good. In many ways, sometimes you think that your legacy is like, I don't know, work related or like, oh, I did these many shows or I built these many buildings. But sometimes your legacy is really like what you did for the people in your community, I remember I heard this random, I think it was Maya Angelou talking to Oprah, and Oprah's like, oh, my legacy is going to be these schools in Africa that I built.
Yeah.
And Maya Angelou said, you don't get to pick what your legacy is. Your legacy is the mark that you left on every person's life.
That's good.
And Oprah was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it's true. I don't get to pick. It's the impact you make on every single person.
Absolutely. Who was it? I think Tony Robbins said, the key to living is giving.
Yeah.
Right? And there's a lot of truth to that, right? Because you always feel so much better giving something than receiving something.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think I bought someone's breakfast this morning behind me in McDonald's, and you just feel so good, right? Like paying it forward, and it's something so little like that.
It was me. Thank you.
So it was you with the 4 meals. But no, it just feels good, right?
So you paid, you left, and they didn't know because you had left already.
Yeah.
When they came to the paying, they found out it was already paid.
Yeah, they have no idea who it is, right?
Wow.
Just they're like, hey, that person in front of you bought your lunch or your breakfast, whatever it was, right? So I try to do little things like that because the feeling, it's almost selfish. The feeling you get out of giving, right? When you can, much better than if that was me getting my free meal. Be like, oh yeah, that's awesome, cool. That dude just paid for my breakfast. That's great, but it's not the same feeling.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how to explain it, but it's a very different feeling. Yeah.
Have you ever paid for somebody, like for somebody who was behind you? Have you ever paid for their mortgage? Because I'm looking at. That'd be amazing. No, congrats on the university, man. That was that's incredible. I mean, I realized that at Scotiabank, one of my hidden talents was getting my friends jobs and interviews. I probably got like 40 or 60 of some. Obviously, I didn't bring 60 friends of mine, but a lot of my friends got jobs, and their friend and people that I didn't even know, I got them jobs because I got really good at just like writing these emails.
Lying?
and yeah, writing these emails and networking, and I had so many friends in the bank that I knew about opportunities. So then I took this personal growth course called Landmark, and I did the first the main one, the Landmark Forum. Then I did the advanced. Then I did the third one, which is called SELP, Self Expression and Leadership.
Yeah.
And you have to create a project for the community, and they help and they coach you through it. And I was like going through a bunch of ideas. So I love interviewing people. I love knowing their story. I love helping people get jobs. I'm good at it. I love it, helping Latinos, my community, and I love teaching people how to do stuff. So I'm like, what? And I love dinners with people. I love going out for a beer. And in the pandemic, I didn't have this, like, let's go out for a beer and meet new people, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, why don't I combine this whole thing in one? And I founded Not Working to Networking. And now I have 9 people on my team. It's gonna be a non-for-profit. We've hosted 1,500 people. Like, our 7th season, 450 spots sold out in like 6 days immediately. I mean, it's free, but they registered.
Yeah.
We want to keep it free because these people need it the most. And I feel so good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
probably better than the people who get jobs.
Right.
You know, in the helping.
It's incredible. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And that's the power of entrepreneurship too, right? It's a platform. It's a resource.
Yeah.
You know, owning your own company, this and that. It's a tool that allows you to do what you really love to do.
Absolutely.
Is the way I look at it, right? It's it's amazing.
The other thing that I enjoy the most, I know I said it was the last question, but it got out of control. The other thing that I enjoy the most about being, like, I guess, an entrepreneur or my own boss is in the curating of my team. Like, when I was at the bank, I didn't get to pick who I was going to work with.
Yeah.
I just got people. I showed up and they were there. Or they were new and I just have to. And it was great because it teaches you teamwork and resilience and empathy and patience and all these things. But now I get to pick who I want to work with. Yeah. Isn't that incredible? So these 9 people who are with me in Not Working to Networking, none of us get paid because we don't even make money. Like, we added an option where people can donate, but not a lot of people donate. So, but now I see qualities in people that I'm like, I want this guy, this girl on my team every time, all day. And now I have them on my team, and it's such a joy to work with them. Like, I would, this is my dream. I would work with these people all day, every day. And that is tremendously rewarding. That curating process is tremendous. I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, it's the same as our team. It's incredible.
But now you got 85 pretty soon. It's going to be, congrats, man.
Thank you.
Congrats. Thank you so much for being here, man. You've not only built something, honored your family, you work with your family, making your community a better place. CMB University is gonna be a reality. My favorite core values, and you're hiring newcomers. Man, that is so big because so many people are talented, but maybe they don't have good English, or maybe they don't have Canadian experience.
Yep.
But you, as a decision maker, being able to see past that, it is like all my community, including myself, we're so grateful for that, man. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Big hug to your wife, to your 3 kids, to your brothers who I met at the company, to my Dominican friend, my Indian friends, and everybody else. Thank you so much, Justin Bruzzese and Stephan Dyer on the Stephan Dyer Podcast. Ciao, ciao.
Gracias por escuchar el Stephan Dyer Podcast. Arrivederci, my people.